Welcome to the Live Your Purpose podcast, featuring compelling interviews with big-hearted people in the Oklahoma City metro area who are leading, creating, and innovating on purpose. Get inspired by conversations with passionate difference makers from our local community. I'm your host, Charles Gossett, life purpose coach and founder of Full Integration Coaching. On today's episode, we sit down with Jay Sheldon, a professional cinematographer and senior video specialist who uses his passion for storytelling to produce creative content for well-known brands as well as his own. And now, the Live Your Purpose podcast. Welcome to this edition of the Live Your Purpose podcast. I'm sitting down today with Jay Sheldon, who's a professional cinematographer, host of the Miscellaneous Important Stuff podcast, and fellow all-around creative. After receiving a video camera for Christmas at the age of 14, Jay decided that he wanted to pursue a career in film and video. He went on to earn degrees in both film and video production and graphic design from Oklahoma City Community College. Jay has honed his skills in working professionally as an eMedia specialist, Multimedia Coordinator, and for the past 5 years as a cinematographer and editor at Insight Creative Group, where he gets to combine his love of creative collaboration and storytelling through video. In 2014, Jay was awarded with a Heartland Emmy for co-directing, shooting, and editing the short documentary Going Dark, The Final Days of Film Projection. When not working, Jay spends his time playing soccer, screen printing, playing guitar, watching Netflix, making balloon animals, learning yo-yo tricks, reading, and looking for new hobbies that he can't make time for. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. And our listeners may or may not know, I was a guest on your show, the Miscellaneous Important Stuff podcast. So I'll make sure and put the link down in the show notes so they can go visit you.
Awesome. Yeah. And that was, I just posted that episode last week, I think?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I shared it shamelessly. Okay. Right.
I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Do you say that to all the guests? No, I'm just kidding.
It's required, right? No,
Yeah,
but
it
I really did enjoy it.
I did too. And that's why I thought immediately I've got to have you on the show. And so I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, me too.
Well, Jay, as you may know, we start each episode with a kickoff question, and you've chosen yours, and we'll start there and just see where the conversation takes us.
Okay.
All right. So, Jay, when did you know that you wanted to be doing what you're doing now?
Well, you sort of mentioned it in the intro. It's a story that I always tell people when they ask me how I got started. And it was when I was 14. I got a video camera for Christmas. It was a little 8mm discontinued video camera, but that changed everything for me. I mean, I'd always created things when I was younger. I did little radio shows with my sister, and I did stop motion videos, and I just loved making things. But when I had a camera, that's when I think I sort of took a different direction. And from that point on, I knew I wanted to make movies. I wanted to tell stories, and that I was dedicated to that path. But now looking back, I don't know that I ever would have thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now. Because at that point, my only thought was, I'm going to make movies, and that's it. There is nothing else. And now I have a very different outlook on storytelling and creativity, and especially now that things are changing with media. I don't know that that's the right path for me anymore, but I do look at that day that I got that camera as the moment where things sort of changed for me.
Yeah, and that's really cool. Some of us do have a moment in time where we can remember how old we were, and I don't know, maybe even where you were, or sights and sounds and textures around you, and can point to that single moment in time. But like you said, also that you couldn't imagine where you'd be today, and then you gave some of those factors, some of those reasons why. Just interested to hear some of your story from that moment when, at 14, you got the camera and your life changed. And you started working on these initial projects. What are some of the chapters of the stories of your life since then?
Well, I mean, and it really was that day that I started making little movies. I mean, I took it and I made like commercials, or we reenacted things we had seen on TV, me and my siblings. I have 2 younger brothers and an older sister. And then I think that summer me and my friends wrote a short film and we made that. We did comedy sketches. We just shot everything. And what I loved about it, was that I was just hanging out with my friends and we were making things. And that is still my favorite thing to do, to make things with the people that I like. Um, but so that from 14 ish to 18, I kind of did those things. I went to film school at Oklahoma City Community College and um, continued to get better. I made some short films, won a few student awards. And after college, there was still that struggle. It didn't work out for me, of course, the way I thought it would. I didn't make this big award-winning movie that would propel me into a Hollywood career, but I continued to work and make short films in my spare time. And then uh, I, got into a corporate job, and another corporate job, and then advertising where I am now. But actually taking it back a little bit from 17 to 21, I delivered papers, and that was what I did while I went to school and made movies. And I look at that time as one of the happiest, and uh, those were very formative years for me, because it was a time where I learned a lot about work ethic. I worked 7 days a week. I worked in the middle of the night. I didn't make a lot of money, but there was a freedom that came with delivering papers that I have, uh, I haven't seen since, which I've kind of realized that lately, that time there was a freedom there that I miss.
Right. I
So
totally get that. And I'm not trying to cut you off. Remember where you're at,
yeah.
but that's such an important point as another creative person. I love to create. I love to be a part of the process. I'm a collaborator as well. So I'm really interested in working with folks who they don't have to get it, but that are willing to participate and give all
Hmm.
that they can to a process or a project. It's a lot of fun, and that's what I get to do with coaching every day. It's really a creative process, and but creativity can be demanding. It asks a lot
Yeah.
of us, and that freedom aspect that you mentioned there, you're able to look back now and talk about freedom. Are there moments, and I'm sure there are, so
Hmm.
what types of moments do you experience freedom in your daily life now, in terms of, like, especially the creative process?
Well, I think I get most of that from the podcast that I do,
Yeah.
because there's no boss. There's no one telling me how it should be better or could be better. I mean, people give advice, but it's one of the few areas of my life with creativity that I don't have to overthink it. Uh, if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. But I get to just do it, and there are no consequences for it not turning out the right way for a client or a boss or for anybody. So that that's probably what I enjoy most about doing a podcast or doing anything creative at home, making anything, I don't know, building a Lego car, whatever it is, the freedom to do that without criticism. I love it. Not that criticism is a bad thing. I think constructive criticism is helpful, but it can also keep people from creating in a way where they'll really find out what they want to do. I think people stop creating because there's so much. Well, there can be a lot of negative energy depending on who it's coming from.
There
So
absolutely can. And I agree 100% with that. There's nothing wrong, like you said, and I agree on that constructive criticism. If it's building, if it's generative, if it's meant to be truly helpful, then that helps us to develop our craft and hone our skill. But I know from experience what you mean, and this is me talking. I'm a sensitive person. A lot of
mhm.
creatives are, not all, but most of us have some of that in there, and part of that is because we're bearing our soul. When we put
Yeah.
something out there, we're like, okay, here it is, and then what do you think about it? and and sometimes we don't have to ask, in today's world, but
That's
yeah,
true.
you
You
know,
get told immediately.
you do. You get instant feedback whether you want it or not.
Yeah, and it is tough to put yourself out there like that. I mean, even like on my show, I talk about a lot of personal stuff, which I like doing. I like having those conversations, but at the same time, you're putting that out there for the world, and you're saying this is who I am, and you're hoping people accept that, but they don't always. So but I think that's freeing. That's therapeutic. That has been really good for me to just be like, well, you don't have to like who I am. You don't have to like the way I approach things or the things I say, but this is who I am. And that I think that's one of the best things anybody can do, to just go, this is it. And I'm doing the best I can.
Right. You know what? As the person that I am, when I hear you say that, I'm like, if we could all do that, yeah, and I'm my hope is that in the time of COVID-19, when this episode was recorded, and we're all hunkered down, and a lot of us are looking inside of ourselves, whether we want to or not, because it's hard to look too far into the future right now out there. So we're doing the best we can with what we got. We're trying to make sense of chaos and disruption. And so hopefully some of these lessons, really, we can learn from them. Um, what are your thoughts about this time of COVID-19, and being at home a lot, and how has that affected you? I guess, if you don't mind me asking that, how has it affected your day to day?
Yeah, I've been sort of up and down, but in some ways it's been great for me because I have a tough time slowing down. And so this pandemic has sort of done that for me, where all these obligations I've had, they just sort of went away. And I've had time to just be at home, focus on the things I want to focus on, and figure out what is my path moving forward professionally and personally. And, the things that we don't always think about. We don't always slow down and think about those things. So I think it's been positive. It's definitely it's I think the longer this goes on, the rougher it gets, because I do miss being around people, like more people, and being able to go out and hug the people you love. And I'm single and I live alone, so I spend most of my time alone right now, and it's probably not a good thing. I mean, I like my alone time, but for a month or 6 weeks, it's probably it's probably not healthy. So, uh, I think it's been rough, just like it has been for everybody else. But um, I see a lot of the positive things that are going to come out of this.
Yeah, I love the honesty of that answer. For me too, it's I mean, I'm a life coach, and I have some really great ideas and helpful suggestions, and I'm human also. So I try to let people know on a regular basis, I don't have answers for this right now. We're in this together. I'm doing the best I can, to say that again. And some days are better than others, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
roller coaster action for me. There's a lot of ups and downs. I'm like, man, this is kind of like when I launched my business, a few years ago. It's it's like all the extreme up and down action again. And
Yeah.
my family's at home. I am an introvert, so I can spend a lot of time on my own. But my family's at home, and we all get lonely. Each one of us has had that
Mhm.
loneliness and some down times and down days, meaning like depression or the blues, and it's wearing. So before we went on air, I was telling you, we went outside today. We went to the park, and we social distanced and all that, and saw the police tape around the swing set. Uh, do not cross. I felt like there was a crime
Oh,
scene.
so
Yeah,
bizarre.
it's very odd. And so that was just that was a real benefit to all of us, to be able to do that, get some sunshine, have some kind of normalcy, and then come back home.
Yeah, we don't really think about we've never really had to think about this much time alone in isolation. Most of us, I mean, maybe some people have, but for the most part, we're all social creatures. Introvert, extrovert, doesn't matter. I think everyone wants connection. So this is like it's a forced social experiment in a way.
Yes, well said. Yeah. Well, I like that perspective, seeing it as an experiment. That's really interesting language to me is, what are the possibilities that to me, when I hear that and when I use that language, it's like, I'm curious. I may not like it all, but that at least gives me some perspective to see what might unfold and how could this go.
Yeah, I think we're at the very least we'll learn something from this, for the future because this I'm sure this will happen again or some form of it. So if we know how we're going to react to it, we can probably have a better idea of how to handle it when it does inevitably come up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, there's like 5 things that I've learned already, and, so I'll be writing those down and putting those into action from you. Okay, well, so back to, your path, and you were, in your 20s, I think, is where your early 20s? Is that where we left? It doesn't have to be
uh
chronological, but
yes.
okay, I may be wrong. It doesn't really matter, but I really wanted to dive back into your passion and what is it like for you to story tell through video, to collaborate with others, to the ins and outs of the projects? I mean, just all of it. I want to hear all. I'm excited about it.
Oh man, where to start with that? I mean,
A big
I
question.
yeah, it is a big question. It's God, the process is something I'm trying to enjoy, and it's something I didn't enjoy for a really, really long time
Okay.
because and it's something I had to learn that, I was always looking to finish one thing and get on to another one. That if I can just finish this project, I'll be happy. If I can finish the story and get this movie into a film festival and something good happens, then I'll be happy. And it took me a lot of years to realize that that wasn't going to happen, and that the reason I wasn't happy wasn't because of the thing that didn't go well. It was because I probably wasn't approaching any project in the way I should have been. I was working on the wrong projects. I was working too much, and um, so I kind of got off on a tangent here. But I mean that is a big part of my story. Is that for years and years and years I'd work a full time job, and then I'd work. Um, I mean, I still do it. Work in my free time on other projects, and I was always trying to get somewhere, but I didn't know where I was going. I was like chasing happiness, and and I never got there. I mean, not as a destination. I think it's a I'm still in the process, but um, something that's come up really recently that I've realized for myself is that all I want for my life is creative freedom. And I went from job to job to job because I thought the goal was at a certain point to get the job that'll make me happy, to get a good salary, to get a job where I could be creative, and people would look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, you get to do what you love for a living," because I was making videos. But really, that wasn't it for me. Just having a job where I made videos. I mean, you can get a job. There's lots of places you can get a job making videos, but it's not creative. So just in recent years, I've realized that it it's more about not just using the skills that I have, but finding a creative freedom where I can make the things I want to make and enjoy the process. And that was huge for me. And I think it's also one of the most difficult things to do for any creative person or artist to be able to do that full time for yourself. I think it feels impossible, and I have friends that probably think I'm crazy for wanting that, but that that's my goal. And that sort of takes you from 20s till now, because there was like that was this huge gap where I was creating but I wasn't happy. And yeah, it's just recent years where I've started to figure out how to make it happen where I feel fulfilled and happy and wanting more.
Yeah, let's go there because that's some people spend their whole lives. I have a lot of conversations with people like we're having now that involve, the ups and downs and ins and outs of life and the question of work and purpose and function and what is this all about, and what does it mean, and how can I be fulfilled and happy?
Mhm.
And you've been there, done that, found out a lot of what didn't work, and have found out and continue to find out what does work for you. So what are some of those things that you can describe that actually bring you fulfillment in creative freedom and doing the projects that you want to do?
Oh, the things that do work?
Yeah, that do work for you. What
I
gets you
think
excited?
it's I think in the beginning, when I first started out, I was looking at what everyone else was doing.
Yeah,
And I wanted to make movies, so I'm looking at what are other people doing when they make movies, and what are their goals? What are they after? And I was just sort of mimicking that. And I think the things that work for me are, well, first of all, I had to figure out, what do I actually enjoy? Like, what are the parts of creativity that I enjoy? And a big one is connecting with people. I love talking to people. Um, I love I love working with my hands and making things. I love telling emotional stories that I connect with, stories that are part of me. Um, it's a lot of things, but then figuring out how to incorporate that into my work, which I just didn't do before. It was like I was making something for somebody else. And what's been great is, it was great when I started to make things for me, and that that's the biggest thing, is not worrying about what everyone else is creating. It's like we're all very unique. So the things that I create, nobody else is going to create. And when I started focusing on that, I think it just got much easier.
that is a hard leap for people to take. And you said it. I know that you've covered that terrain in your own life because of how you described it. Um, and it resonates with me, and when I started out, I have a lot of career changes, and many of them do connect with who I am. The way that I was doing the work, a lot of them did not,
Mhm.
and I wasn't able to work in a supportive environment. For example, I need to have enough support in my environment that I'm working in to be able to sustain my passion. It needs to have some meaning. It needs to be relevant to me, and that means knowing who I am. And what I hear you saying is knowing yourself and really what you enjoy doing. One word for that is passion. Another word is fulfillment. There's strengths there, interests, and then really finding out how to express your own creative, if you want to call it a signature, your own style, your own brand of storytelling.
Mhm.
And so when did that? I'm really curious about that. When did you turn that corner and start to create things that were satisfying to you? And how did you know?
I think it was gradual,
Yeah.
because I think I was always sort of making things that I really wanted to make. But hmm, I mean, that's a great question, because for that one, I don't have that moment. I just I think I just spent too much time chasing a ghost. I mean, it was like I was chasing something I wasn't ever going to get to. It was always trying to get to the next thing instead of enjoying the thing that I'm on. That was a big part of it too. Um, but I don't know. I don't think I have that singular moment where I stopped creating for other people. And I mean, I think it's still a struggle, because especially if you're trying to create for money, you are thinking about an audience. You're thinking about what other people like, and I think there's always going to be that piece of it. Or if you're working in advertising or marketing, you have a client. So you know, for anybody who's doing that, I think a big part of about finding fulfillment is working on your side projects that you actually enjoy. But I guess when I think about what I want to do, uh, I try to think about, what would I be making, what would I be talking about with other people, what am I thinking about when nobody's there's no deadline, nobody's requiring anything of me. Like, what am I most interested in? And that is, I guess that's what I try to focus on now. And I don't know, I feel like I kind of went in circles there. I don't know if that answered it at all.
I think it did, and it's okay with me to go in circles. I can track most of it, and for me, what I picked out, and this isn't all of it, but what I picked out is you tried to do it somebody else's way. You took, which is really common. I know it is for me when I started, because I didn't know what I was doing coming into this field. I knew I had some strengths and some skills. I definitely was aligned with my purpose and passion in doing coaching. But it was new. It's a new field, and it was a new job for me. Very different from much of what I'd done previously, but really in line with who I am. And that brings
Mhm.
me to what I heard you say is like, um, from that tendency to want to get the next thing done, and then the next thing after that, and the next thing after that, which, I mean, that's most Americans and probably most of the world now. It was built
Yeah.
that way. Speed is a value, and accomplishment for its own sake. For some reason, we have to check the boxes and get stuff done. Um, but being present is really getting a lot done, because when we find out what really moves us, what really excites us, we become uniquely ourselves, and that is a struggle that our society doesn't really know how to do very well. And for us creative
Yeah.
types, when we're able to align, that's where it's at. Then the work gets meaningful and relevant, and we're like, this is really interesting stuff now.
Yeah, now that you say that, it reminds me of, so the documentary that I made about film projection, and I guess it was 2012, 2013 when we made it, but that one sticks out for me, not because we ended up winning an award for it, but because we made a movie about film projection, which was dying. And for me and the friend that I made it with, it was very, very special for us because, that was our childhood, going to movies and hearing the film projector. And movies, I think for everyone, it has sort of a magical quality to it, especially when you're young, because there is this, it just opens up your imagination, and it opens up worlds. And when we made that, it just took me back to being a kid. I got to be up in the film projection booth, which, if you would have told me I could do that when I was 10 years old, I would have just lost my mind. Just the thought of that, being up there, seeing the projectors run. Um, and then we were able to tell a story that a lot of people connected with, because a lot of people had those same feelings that we did. And that for me was the most special part. Both of those things combined. Um, made that project something that I can look back on and look at as a milestone, and something that I want to base all my future work off of, because the feelings associated with that were so important to me. I guess it was then and with that I realized that I needed to be doing more of that, because I don't get that a lot. I don't get that a lot, but it was the most meaningful to me.
Yeah, when those special moments come, I mean, we can't create them. There's something to it. We can be in the right place at the right time, and with the right frame of mind in those special places. And man, when it all comes together, that's what keeps me going. That's a
Mhm.
similar thing that used to keep me chasing drinks and drugs. It's like when that all came together for that perfect set of feelings. But really, it's more sustainable for me to to find ways to chase that magic concoction of creativity and collaboration, and meaningful stories, and people want to hear it, and it changes them somehow. It's really validating, and beyond validating. I mean, it brings us alive.
Yeah, it meant the world to me to hear other people talk about it, and hear that it brought back memories from their childhood, or from when they were a projectionist, or all those stories that they had. Like, they appreciated being brought back to that time, and that just meant so much, more than any award or anything else could have given me. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I hear it, and I'm just having memories now, just thinking about it. So as a fellow storyteller, poetry and songwriting, and really the narratives that we have in our minds through life purpose. I'm a storyteller and a story listener also, and I'm thinking back to those days when I was in elementary school, and had those videos were old then. When I was in school, they were probably 30 years old then. I remember more than once them wheeling the projector in and having the film melt, in the middle, and
yeah.
and they'd have to splice it back together. Or if the teacher didn't know how, we were done. Get out your worksheets.
This is the worst because when you know you're watching a movie in class, you get excited because you
Yeah,
don't have to do the regular work. So if you have to
right.
go back to your work, it's like, ugh, it's the worst feeling.
It was terrible. So yeah, I don't have too many of those feelings right now because I can remember the smell, of the film projector and see the dust in front of the lens and
Yeah,
when the light came on. So I'm definitely transported back there now.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So there's a moment, right, that we've
Yeah.
uncovered that's when it came together in a really powerful way. What are some of the, let's say, recent projects that you've been up to that you're interested in or that you find satisfying? It can be video. We can start with video, but it can be anything that just comes to your mind.
Okay. Well, something I'm working on right now that I'm pretty excited about. I think it's going to turn out good. It's a new series. It's called First Quencher, and it's about well, people are telling their stories about their first time. Well, for season one, it's about their first kiss. So the idea would be to do several seasons, each one focusing on a different subject. But this first season, there's 6 episodes, and it's focused on everyone's first kiss. They tell their story, and that was just a lot of fun to film. It's going to be a YouTube series, so it's video, but it's fun to film because I feel like everyone has a similar experience. A lot of people have a similar experience. I mean, different setting, different age, but it's all the same. It was awkward, or uh it seemed like the same feelings no matter who I talked to. So I really enjoyed hearing everyone's story, and them being so honest about it, taking me back with them to when they were whatever age, and tell me the details of that moment, because it's it's sort of universal. I think everyone can relate to that. So that's something I'm editing right now and hope to be done with in the next month or two. It's just been a slow process, but that one's sort of aligns with the everything that I'm passionate about. So, which is connecting with people, and storytelling, and video, and creative freedom. So really excited about that, actually.
Yeah, and kissing's pretty good too. So I mean that that's pretty universal too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay. So can you give us a couple of little teasers that so we can whet our appetite for these first quenchers?
Let's see. You want like pieces of one of the stories?
Well, sure. Whatever you want to reveal, and I'll of course drop in the show notes when it comes live. I'll let people know about it.
Okay. Well, there were 2 of them that were first kisses on stage, which
Oh
I think are
wow.
really interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know that I could have handled that. I don't
No
I mean,
way. I know I
no.
couldn't. Yeah.
No, they were both in a play, and it was gonna be their first kiss, and it was different plays, different experiences, but just, that same setting, being on stage during a play. And yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but I think
Yeah.
that that setup is pretty interesting, because I think, man, I just can't imagine that taking place on a stage in front of a crowd. I think they're very brave people to do that and go through with it, and come out fine on the other side, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll definitely be looking for that. And I've got 2 teenage daughters, and um, one of them has a long-term boyfriend. The other one hasn't gotten to that point of dating and
Okay.
that we know of, any romantic interest that we know of. And so I think that'd be a lot of fun for them to hear. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, that was my other thought too. Is that if you've had a first kiss,
Yeah.
then you can sort of relate to these stories. If you haven't had one, then you go, okay, great. So it's not good for everyone. So I don't have anything to worry about when I think, oh, this is going to be terrible. I'm nervous. It's no everyone. It's true for everyone.
Yeah. It absolutely is. I'm thinking of mine. I'm not going to share that with you right here, but yeah, I'm more the self-conscious. What was that? And I think I ran away. So did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah. So that happens.
See, it's like it's very in line with the other stories that my subjects told. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. So I don't know how much you can talk about with your daily work that you get to do with Insight Creative Group or others, that you're doing professionally. But yeah, what can you share with us that projects that you've been involved with, and a little bit about the team, if you'd like?
so at Inside Creative Group, it's a small-ish team. I guess I don't know what a large agency looks like, but we are a team of 25 right now, and I've been there for 4.5 years. I started as a video specialist, mostly editing, and now I do most of the shooting, most of the commercials. We do long form documentaries, we do stories, and we work with a lot of different brands. Most of them local, regional. St. Anthony's one of our, well, I guess they are our biggest client. And then we do stuff with Ted's and the Garage, Floor Trader, Carter Chevrolet. Um, who else? We have a lot of different clients. So that is one of the cool parts about being there is there is a variety, and I work with so many talented creative people, graphic designers, and other video specialists and animators, and that is fuel for the creative fire in a way. Being around other people who are passionate and do good work, which that's definitely something I was missing from previous jobs. Um, I was mostly the lone marketing guy at other jobs where I was the one that had to do everything. I was the only one that knew video. I was the only one that knew design, and so there was all that pressure with nobody to lean on. Um, and so coming to an agency was great because there was collaboration. There's really good feedback. Um, there were people pushing you to be better, and that's something I've really enjoyed over the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, I'm picturing it. I don't know what it's like to be there. I've seen a few pictures online. I went and did a little bit of research. It looks like there is creative energy bouncing off the walls in that place. At least at times. I'm sure there's work to do as
Yeah,
well, but there's all kinds of interesting storytelling and little the employee feature, little mini stories. I don't know what they're
yeah,
called, but I watched several of those and thought those were a lot of fun.
yeah. They did a good job of creating just a space that well, the space is creative. Just the space itself, it's got a ball pit, and we used to have a pool table and a ping pong table, and they got rid of some of that stuff because we're filling up the building now. There's not a lot of room for some of those extra things, but it does feel like a creative space, and it's a open environment, which can be good and bad, but it
Right.
allows for collaboration, people talking and discussing projects, and it's definitely a good bunch of people. So before that, they were in, I think, just like a regular office building. So it was definitely a big change. I think they moved into the current space in 2009, and then they've just continued to build it out. And now we have. So have you ever been to McCurtain County, Beaver's Bend?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Many
Well,
times growing up.
so we do the tourism for McCurtain County now, and once we got them as a client, uh, there was this second floor loft in the building, and they turned that into a little cabin just to sort of, I guess, celebrate the win, but also make it a conference room and creative space. So now, if you come in the building and you look up, there's this. I mean, this it's an actual cabin on the second floor, wood floors and wood paneling, and little fake fireplace that goes into the attic. So it's a fun creative space, and I feel like every 6 months they're coming up with new ideas for construction.
They're creating the creative space itself on an ongoing basis, which makes perfect
Yes, it's
sense. I
always
totally
changing.
get that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, if it stays the same, then that's not good either. I mean, it evolves over time, just like we do, and just like the work does.
Yeah. Well, and so we have a few more minutes, and as my internet connection is unstable, I'm getting notes. So hopefully we don't sound like we're in the Matrix or something. But um, but I did want to give you a chance to highlight yourself, and if you're other websites and projects that you do, or if you're for hire, how folks can get in touch with you. And of course, I'll drop it in the show notes. But yeah, where else can people find out about your work and working with you?
Well, to find out about what I'm doing with Miscellaneous Important Stuff, which is really my big project right now that includes this new series I'm working on and the podcast that I do weekly, you can go to my website at miscimportantstuff.com, or YouTube channel, which is, I think it's just youtube.com/miscellaneous important stuff. And if you Google Miscellaneous Important Stuff, I'm the only thing that shows up because it's a very odd phrase. And actually, to maybe I can explain that real quick for any,
Yeah,
because
please
I
do.
don't think so Miscellaneous Important Stuff is it's a box of stuff that I've had for many years that I keep. It's just important things. I'm very sentimental. I like to keep things like movie tickets and, I don't know, programs to plays, but a lot of these things don't have a place. They don't just go, I can't just lay it on the table forever. It's not going to go on the shelf. So a lot of these things that are important to me, I end up putting in a box, and then that goes into a bigger box. But it's a way for me to keep those important memories organized. And that's a huge part of me. So when I thought about making my show and sort of my brand, that's the first phrase that came out. And that's what everything is under now, Miscellaneous Important Stuff. So, but website is probably the best place to get in touch or to see what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I'll say it again on my own show. I said it when I was on your show. Do yourself a favor, people, and go check out Jay's website, Miscellaneous Important Stuff. I'll give you the link if you didn't get it already. And you'll see I'm calling it the intro video. Correct me if it's not called that. What do you call it?
Yeah, I think that's probably, yeah, I don't know what else I would call it. Intro video sounds good.
Please go see that. It's such excellent work, high quality, really interesting storytelling, and in just a couple of minutes about what Miscellaneous Important Stuff is. I really enjoyed it. So go check that out. And Jay, I wanted to give you another minute or two in our closing time. Anything that you would suggest to folks? We are in the middle of coronavirus and staying at home, and maybe we're going to transition some out and maybe not. What words of wisdom or just closing remarks would you have for people during this time?
Oh man. Well, I guess for any other creative out there, I would say to just keep making things and to not put any pressure on yourself right now. I think I definitely feel a pressure to get stuff done because it's who I am. But I think it's also important to slow down, to try to enjoy the time that you have alone and figure out, what you want, because this period of time is something that is not going to come up a lot in life, where you're forced to sit still and do nothing. So I hope other people are taking advantage of it. I think it's not all bad. So yeah, my advice to anybody would be to just to sit still, sit in that, create something, and I don't know, maybe look inward a little bit.
I absolutely love that. Jay Sheldon, thank you so much for being a guest on my show today. I've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure thing. You've been listening to the Live Your Purpose podcast. I hope you've been inspired by my conversation with today's guest. If you like what you hear, please share with your social networks and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Charles Gossett, life purpose coach and founder of Full Integration Coaching. To learn more about the life coaching, public speaking, and retreat services that I offer, visit fullintegrationcoaching.com. And you can follow along with me on Facebook and Instagram at Full Integration Coaching. Until next time, remember, you were meant to live on purpose. Start living yours today.